Hi nerds, it is Tuesday, October 5th, and we are going to talk about endings. I feel like endings are the most difficult part of the writing process for me. I am really good at starting projects and really bad at ending them. So today I wanted to share with you a few things that I have learned about figuring out your endings and the best way to go about doing that. The first thing that you should consider when figuring out your ending is the most obvious thing, and that is your plot. Obviously, you need to figure out what needs to happen for the story to end. What bad guy needs to be defeated, what basketball tournament needs to be won, what magical object needs to be found, what bully needs to be stood up to, and also what side plots need to be tied up, what loose ends do you have. Once you've figured out what the plot needs out of your ending, the second thing you need to figure out is what your characters need. If the plot was the what of your ending, the characters are the how. How is that villain defeated, that object retrieved, that bully stood up to, that basketball game won? The how of your ending should always reflect back on your character development. Whatever your character has gained or learned throughout the story needs to be used in your climax. If your character has gained a new magical power or learned courage and they don't use it in the finale, what was the point? Now, once you have figured out the what and the how, the plot and the character aspects of your ending, you can also think about one other thing. How can you make things worse for your characters? How can you make it harder to defeat the villain or win the basketball game? What setbacks can your character face at the very end? This is your chance to raise those stakes one last time. Now, like I said, endings are difficult for me, and this last piece of advice I have is the thing that has been the hardest lesson for me to learn. Once you have figured out what needs to happen and how your characters are going to do it and how you can make things more difficult for them, sometimes you have to just sit down and start writing the ending. I am definitely a perfectionist, and it is something I have had to let go of in my writing in knowing that a first draft won't be perfect, and I've been able to learn that and let go of that pretty easily. But for some reason when it comes to endings, I'm just really clinging to that idea that it has to be perfect the first time. Part of the reason I wanted to make this video today is because this is something that I have been going through the past week or so. I did a really good job of writing every day for most of last month, so well that I was approaching the end of my story. Now, since pretty much the beginning, when I first plotted out this story, I had a pretty good idea of what needed to happen at the end. However, I had no idea how I was going to have that happen. I knew what villain needed to be defeated, I knew what plot lines needed to be wrapped up, and what my characters needed to accomplish. So when I reached that point, I went through some of these things that I have talked about in this video. I figured out my plot goals for the ending. And I figured out what aspects of my character's development I really needed to highlight in this ending, and that gave me some ideas of how I was going to defeat my bad guy. And I even found a great way to up the tension and make things worse for the characters before they could solve their problems. But I still didn't feel like I had the perfect idea, the perfect outline of how I was going to end the story. So I figured I'd give myself some time to think about it. Well, over a week has passed, and I have not gotten any writing done, and I also have had no new ideas for my ending. I've also lost a lot of that momentum that I had going last month. And I know that if I had actually just kept writing instead of giving myself time to think about the ending, I would have an ending. I would have finished the story already. And yeah, it would probably be awful and it would not be the right ending for my story, but I would have something to work with and things that I could use to go back and make the perfect ending. Because I highly doubt that anyone gets their ending right the first time. And you definitely aren't going to get it right without putting pen to paper or hands to keyboard. So if you've thought through those three things, your plot, your characters, and your stakes, your tension, just sit down and write it, even if it doesn't feel like you have all the pieces yet. You'll figure it out. Anyway, that is all for today. Good luck with your writing, word nerds. Don't forget to join us this Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Time. I will see you guys then.